Welcome back to the channel. This game continues Nigel's tournament in the Esbjerg tournament in Denmark. This was the round 7 game. He was playing John Arnason, Icelandic Grandmaster. The game started as a Sicilian defence. And the Najdorf variation. I think already we're out of the book or out of the more common moves. And this is an interesting idea. I think the idea is it threatens knight takes e4 with the threat of knight takes c2 afterwards, which Nigel actually does allow. Whether he just didn't know it or whether he thought the line was good for white. So black accepts the challenge. And already we have quite a strange position where white's king's in the centre. Quite a lot of pieces have been swapped off already, and should lead to an exciting game. Here black plays d5, and I think this is a mistake, and it allows the knight to jump into c5, which is a good strong outpost for it. I think e5 would have been a better choice for black in this position. He now decides to play e5 with the threat of probably d4. So Nigel checks, and this forces more trades. And now I think white's got a good positional advantage. Black's got a backward b pawn, hanging pawns in the centre. And white's development's quite nice. He's going to bring the bishop out, and he's got quite a nice game. So d4 hits the bishop, and the bishop's eventually got to reroute itself to g3. But Nigel decides to check first, which probably isn't. I think bishop to g5 first would have been just as good, if not better, because this allows the king to come forward where it wants to be anyway. And here Arnason plays b6, which again looks a bit slow because white can now get his king forward, and he's not really threatening to attack the pawn or do anything over there. I think g6 with the tempo against the bishop would have been a better move. So white does occupy the centre with his king, and after the exchange of pawns on the a file, black activates his rook on b8. Nigel just ignores that because taking the b pawn obviously is not an option because of knight c4 check, and white has just grabbed the open file. And now posts his rook nicely on c6, and there's a number of threats here, but the main one obviously being bishop e4 mate or bishop e6 mate, which obviously black has to deal with quite urgently. He decides to play rook to b3 check, which is an interesting idea, but I don't think it works because I think white can just move his king. He's not going to take the rook and trade the rooks. And I think he can just move his king back, which he does. And this forces black into moving his rook, but now obviously bishop to e4 mate isn't an option anymore. But the next move, bishop to e6, forces the king further forward. And this is looking quite uncomfortable for black now because basically he's losing and the king's running around the board. Knight to c4 actually threatens checkmate in 2 with knight to d2 check and king f4 g3 mate. So again, black's got to do something about that. Throws a check in and moves his king out of the danger. But he's in real trouble because his king's really going to get trapped sooner or later, or he's going to have to give up material. Again, this renews the threat of g3 mate. So again, black's forced to try and find some space for his king. And this forces the loss of the e-pawn. So Nigel's got his material equality back, but in essence, the game's lost for black. He's running around the board with his king. Precautionary move just to protect the b-pawn. Bishop c4 would have been just as good. Now the white king's just going to mop up the d-pawn. Black tries to activate his bishop and get some counter play. He activates the other rook. And here probably bishop to d6 would have been the cleanest move, just to trade everything off and be a winning position. Rook to c7 is just as good. Again, it's threatening some horrible checks. So black gives himself some room. Maybe h5 would have been a better move, potentially. h4. The king's got to go back to h7. And now bishop to d6 to trade off the black bishop. Black hits the h-pawn, but white can intercept and check. And the king's now back all the way around the board and ends up back on h8 with a very unhappy life. This just protects the h-pawn so the bishop can move. And this is a good move because basically black's not threatening to take the b-pawn because obviously rook c8 would lead to mate, or would be mate in 1. So all the threats black's threatening are not real threats. Bishop c2 just to stop the attack on the f2 pawn. And the king's eventually going to try and get itself into g6, so black has to stop that. There's a scubbard check, and the king has to go back. Now the pawn moves, so the bishop can move again, and the f-pawn's not under threat. So Nigel tries to bring the king back again, but now decides that the best piece on the f5 square is the knight. And that's obviously now threatens the g-pawn. Just getting the bishops out of harm's way. And again, he still can't take the b-pawn with the rook because of rook c8 check would lead to mate. So the pawns are traded, and white grabs the g-pawn. There's now material up, two pawns in effect up, and position is completely lost for black. And this is the final blunder. Again, black can resign at any time, but obviously the h-pawn is now going to drop as well, and the game is just lost. It's knight takes h6 and with the threat of rook to h7 mate, and the game is over. A very nice game from Nigel. Very nice positional game. I think black went a bit wrong in the middle game, allowing his king to get forced into the centre of the board. But a good win, and this put Nigel to +2 for the tournament, and was going well. And some good wins against some strong grandmasters. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the game, and I'll be back with some more games in due course. Bye for now. Cheers.